Okay, so the discovery process, again, is the second step of the sales process. Now, again, I find that some salespeople have a very determined series of questions they ask, but most salespeople do a thing in sales that is deadly to you from a sales standpoint called winging it. Okay, we don't wing it in sales. Okay, we have a process that we follow. We have the same questions that we ask every time, because that way I know I'm not missing anything. Because many times it's hard to close the sale with a customer because you missed something, you stepped over something, you didn't get all the information needed, and now the customer is not as comfortable with you. When a customer is not as comfortable with you and they don't trust you, then they're looking for an opportunity to leave. And how do you know a customer is not comfortable with you, that you didn't build the trust? The easiest way to get rid of a salesperson is to ask for a brochure. And I tell salespeople, if you give brochures away at the end, right, people are trying to get away from you. Okay, we use a brochure in the walk around process, and I'm going to talk about that in a second. Keep in mind, a brochure is a selling tool, not a get away from a bad salesperson tool. And again, I tell people again, we start with a brochure, we don't end with a brochure. And I'll talk about that in the next step of the process. So in this one, step number 2, it's the discovery process. And so again, so we have a specific set of questions that we ask. Now, you may end up asking more questions than what I have on here. I've got 6 on here that I would always ask. You may add some to that, but I would never, ever not do these 6. You can have 7, 8, 9, 10. I don't really care. I don't want you to have 100 questions you ask them, because now again, you're going to start sounding like a salesperson. But I want to have at least these 6 is what I would always start with. You can always add a few more to them, but I would know these 6 questions in my brain. They would be burnt in, and I would never, ever fail to ask them. So the first question I would ask them, let's say I got a man and a woman, a husband and wife, presumably, that just came into the dealership. And I said, so what brought you in today? And they said, oh, we're looking to replace a tractor we have. Okay, so we're looking to replace a tractor. He said it's a husband and wife, I'm assuming, or a man and a woman at least, right? And I do also understand that if I have a man and a woman in a selling situation, 80% of the time, the woman's going to make the decision, not the man. We'll talk about that during the walk around. But I want you to understand now, I've learned some information here. So my first question to the couple would be, so what do you have now? Okay, what do you have now? Not what are you looking for? What are you hoping for? What are you dreaming for? What do you have now? What I want to try to do is figure out what you have, how long you've had it, why you have it, right? Those are the first questions I want, because it's going to tell me how I'm going to guide you through this process. So my first question is, what do you have now? And let's say, they say, well, we've got a 4020 John Deere. I'm going to use that, probably one of the most popular tractors ever created out there. I think it was built back in, I don't know, the mid-70s or something like that. So let's say we got a 4020 John Deere. And I go, oh, that's great. And my next question is, so now I know what they have, and if I know anything about tractors, I know approximately the horsepower, about what it is. Again, it's a older tractor, but it's still a very popular tractor. So I know a little bit about it. And again, as salespeople, you have to understand all these different things. Selling is a thing that you have to study constantly to learn how to be better at it. So what do you have now? Then the next question I would ask is, I'd say, well, gosh, how long have you had it? They say, oh, we've had it about 20 years. Well, I know they didn't buy it new because it hasn't been produced for about 30 years. So I now know they didn't buy it new, which is okay. But I also know how long they've had it. They've had it about 20 years. Now, you say, well, what does that really matter, how long they've had it? Well, I'm going to show you when we get into handling the objections why we always want to get a time frame, because it's going to help us overcome price objections as a part of what we do in sales. So that question, how long have you had it, is critical, not for what you're going to sell them today, but if we get an objection on price, I can use those number of years to help me out overcome a price objection. My next question is, what do you like most about that 4020 John Deere? What do you like most about it? And they go like, well, why would you care? Because they're going to tell me what are the must-haves when I'm showing them one of my tractors, or one of my excavators, or one of my skid steers, or one of my zero turns. Again, I don't care what you sell. It's all the same thing. So what do you like most about it? And let's say, again, we're going to go back to that 4020 John Deere, and they go, well, this thing, Bob, is built like a tank. Okay? It's easy to service. It has to be the most dependable piece of equipment I've ever bought in my life. And then they stop, and I go, okay, so now I know the 3 must-haves when I do a walk-around on this new piece of equipment. Number 1, I need to demonstrate that my new equipment is built like a tank, not built sturdy. You use the same words that they used with you, built like a tank, easy to service, and it has to be demonstrated that it is dependable. Those are the three must-haves. Those are the three needs. Okay, now understand selling is about needs first and then wants. People will only spend the minimum they have to do to spend to get their needs met. They will spend up to 20% more than they thought they were going to spend to get the want. Understand that people buy not logically, people buy emotionally. Okay, and part of what we've got to do is we've got to get the people excited about buying from us. And as you've been doing what I've been teaching you to do right now, you've never came across as a salesperson yet. You're just somebody that they're comfortable with, they trust you, and they're giving you information. So what do you like most about it? My next question is, gosh, let's say this couple's name is John and Mary, just to make it simple. I say, so John and Mary, if you could change anything about that 4020 John Deere, if you could improve anything about it, if you could wave a magic wand and make something magically better about that tractor, what would you do? If you could change or improve what you have now and make it better, what would you do to it? And let's say Mary goes, oh dear God, Bob, we would love a cab. We would love a cab. I've got retired now. We've got some horses and cattle. I go out every morning and take care of them. I'm tired of being in the cold. I'm tired of being in the rain. I'm tired of being in the heat, Bob. I want a cab. Now, do you need a cab to make a tractor work? Absolutely not. But if you want a cab, right, that's an upsell that I'm going to do on it. But I tell people again, that's the one. Mary was passionate about that cab. Husband's probably nodding his head like this because he's not going to fight that. But again, she's telling you what she wants from that cab standpoint. My next question is, so if you decided to do something, and I'm not saying you are, but if you did, what sort of time frame would you be looking at? I need to know this time frame. And here's a couple of reasons why. Number one, if they say, we want to make a decision before the end of the week, okay, then I'm going to be like a tick on a dog and follow up. If they do happen to leave and want to look around, which is fine, and I'll tell you how to deal with that in just a little bit. But again, I'm not going to wait for 3 days and follow up with them. I'm going to get their information, right? And I'm going to say, guys, so that I can send you some other things that I might think about that might help you make a decision, do you have a cell phone or an email that I can maybe use to help continue to communicate with you? And then at that point, probably if they came in the morning, by mid-afternoon, I would find something else to send them. Hey, just a little tidbit I thought you might be interested in an email or in a text. I'm going to stay on top of this thing because if they say they're going to buy by the end of the week, I'm not going to let this languish at all. And you see a lot of salespeople say, okay, well, if you need anything and you want to buy it, reach out and give me a call. No, that's not selling. Okay, selling is staying in control of this whole thing. So again, what time frame are you looking at? If they say, well, we're not going to do anything for about 6 months, we actually are looking at a piece of land, we've got an offer on it, but it's probably going to be 3 or 4 months before that happens. Now, the reason I want to know that is if I have 5 people in my showroom that are needing my help, I'm going to work with John and Mary a little bit and say, well, let me get you some information. What I'd like for you to do is just take a look around on our lot, see if you got some things. I'm going to go take care of some other people, so I'm going to give you some time to look around a little bit. I'm going to take care of some other people, but promise me you won't leave until I get back and connect with you again. That way, they'll go, okay, that's great. So I gave them some information, maybe some brochures they can look at, walk around the equipment, be out there. But I've also made them to promise me that they're not going to leave until they reconnect with me. That frees me up so I can go take care of another potential prospect as we go through it. Okay, so that time frame is important. And then my last question is, who other than yourself is going to be involved in making the decision? So let's say that John came in, right? And so there's no Mary there. And he says, I'm looking to replace a tractor. I would go through this process. And then when I came down to the end, I'd say, well, John, who other than yourself might be involved in the decision? Oh, my wife's going to be a part of the decision. Matter of fact, she's going to use the tractor more than me. She's not there. Okay, there's no need of me trying to sell John on a tractor because the decision maker isn't there. And I see this happen all the time in sales. You do the greatest walk around in the world, but you don't have the decision maker there. And so then the husband's required to go back and somehow explain to the wife all the great benefits that you pointed out. Your job at that point, if the decision maker's not there, is to get the decision maker there. Your sale is getting to the husband, is getting the wife there. And I had a salesperson the other day say, well, the husband said, well, we can't come in until about 5:30. And he said, what do you do if the store closes at 5? And I go, you're a salesperson. The store never closes. If somebody came up and said, we can't come by on Saturday morning because our kids are in sports and we don't really get free till about 2 o'clock in the afternoon, I go, you know what? At 2 o'clock or 2:30, you let me know. I'll be here. I'll open up and we will look at things. You don't have a time frame in sales. Your job is not an 8 to 5 job. Your job is to be there when a customer wants to be there. And I tell people again, if you play in sales and you do 8 to 5, I'm here 8 hours a day, this is it, you're not in sales. You're an order taker, okay? Selling is whenever the customer is ready to buy, I'm going to be there to sell them something. That's why we make great money in sales. So those are the steps to the discovery process. What do you have now? What do you like most about it? How long have you had it? What do you like most about it? If you could change, improve, or make it better, what would it be? What time frame are you looking at, and who other yourselves would be involved in the decision? And I always like to ask that last question because sometimes I've seen, especially in farming, probably in construction too, I've seen it where you have a younger guy come in and it's a father and son kind of thing, but the father's not there and the son says, well, I'm going to be the decision maker, but my dad's going to want to take a look at it too. Well, the dad's not there. The dad's going to be the decision maker. He's got the money. Again, I'm not going to knock the son. I'm going to say, well, let's go over some things and find a way to get your dad in here with you so that you guys can make a good decision as a part of it. I'm going to pull those decision makers in. So that's the second step to the selling process, the discovery process. Do not skip this step. And I would tell you again, if the better you are at this, the more sales you're going to make, because this is going to lead us into the next step,